talking with her about dance and rocks and notebooks and writing habits, a wonderful glimpse into the mind of a writer. I'm so happy she can join us today. Thanks for being here, Sejal.
Thank you so much, Glenn. Oops. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for that introduction. And Keisha, that was really wonderful. In fact, I think I'm gonna set a timer. I think 20 minutes sounds good. I had planned to read something, which I'm going to read, but I'm going to read something else first because it has Ozzy Osbourne in it. This is from my unpublished story collection, and then I'll read from This Is One Way to Dance. But I was so moved by that essay. This is a story called Dicot Monocot. And what I'll say, well, maybe I won't say anything, except this is about classification of leaves and trees. Dicot, monocot. Do you remember the 6th grade, Margaret? Blood and foreign language beginning the same year. There was that line between all the girls then. An extra bone, a horizontal spine, a keloid inch scripted onto my chest, a fossil, an unreadable note, the first of all the unanswerable signs. We counted. We all counted. You know what I mean. Even if we didn't talk about it all the time, you remember. Even if we never talked about it, you know what I mean. You would have kept it, our book. I still have it. You would have tossed it, maybe by the 7th grade. I still have it, our book. What do you remember, remember, remember? As if I could hold us at 12. Miss Merrill had all of us, every science class in the 6th grade. Remember that day when all the boys had to leave the room? No one could hold us at 12. I don't think they ever told us where they went. Miss Merrill had the bluest eyes. Did you ever wonder if they were real? It was a long time ago. Did Nick ever tell you I saw him with no underwear? We were out back by the creek. I still have the book. I know Nick probably threw his out. Maybe your mom made him. You don't take stuff like that to California. Toothed monocot. Do you know that the weeping willow is a toothed monocot? We knew this once. We had a page for the silver plants. We snuck into the Jones' backyard, but I was afraid of Daisy. Dusty Miller, lobe dicot. Lamb's ear, smooth. We didn't know then, the silver rubs off. The conifers are the next page, pitch smeared under the plastic covering. We draw pictures of the leaves next to the leaves themselves. You will not remember this. We are only 11. No one counted at 11. Did I ever tell you about your brother? It was a long time ago. You moved to California, Margaret. How could you? You didn't even take our book. I still have the ginkgo we found at the end of my street, monocot lobed. A Japanese tree splitting itself into two, mitosis. Leaves like fans, pleated. We thought they were special, but there were whole trees of them. The tulip tree was one street over, dicot, lobed, toothed. By the end of November, we could have found our way there by counting rows of bark, the first language beneath our hands. Do you remember the most special one? The one we went into Elm Lane for? We weren't allowed, and we went anyway. No one could hold us at 12. We found a tree that had leaves like stars. Sweet gum. We looked it up in the book. There must have been a book. Dicot, lobed, toothed. I didn't put anything special on to save them. We were only 10 or 11. What did we know about fixatives? I think we glued them to the paper. I think it was probably school glue. I think we had to use my mother's sewing needles to open the bottle. You know how it always stops up. It had been so long when we stopped hearing from you. We never found out who spray painted Ozzie Lives near the creek. You were going to be a ballerina. Crimean linden, Verbanica magnolia, white oak, pussy willow. What did you become when you grew up? Saucer magnolia, star magnolia. No one could hold us at 12. Did Nick ever tell you he saw me without underwear that one time? We had a page for the silver plants. It was out back by the creek. And did you become a dancer? A weeping willow is a toothed monocot. Or did your bones get bigger? It's okay if your bones got bigger. You know you can't help it. Your bones. So I did not remember that I had ever written about Ozzy Osbourne. So I just loved, Keisha, what you said about rereading and echoes and readings. Thank you for that. I'm going to get to the essay I originally planned to read, but I'm going to read another echo essay, or just the beginning of it. This is One Way to Dance, and it has Anne of Green Gables in it. So I'm going to do another echo. I'll read part of this essay and then a third very short essay. So this essay is called Betsy Tacy Sejal Tib. And the Betsy Tacy Tib books were written by Maud Hart Lovelace. And it turned out that when I lived in northeastern Iowa for a year, I rented the house of a professor who had grown up in the neighborhood in Mankato, Minnesota, where the Betsy Tacy stories took place, where that author grew up. But anyway, in case you don't know who Betsy Tacy and Tib are, there's a whole Betsy Tacy society. Betsy Tacy Sejal Tib. In the books I read growing up, there were always words I couldn't quite imagine. I remember with the specificity that surprises me, the foreignness of certain colors. Kelly green, strawberry blonde. These were books about girls with doting fathers and best friends named George. Books about an adopted boy named Jim and his sister Honey. A series about two best friends from the same street who made room for a third. No one felt alone past the second chapter. A series about twins, one good and one slightly more interesting. Like every girl, I wanted a twin or a best friend. Like every girl, I wanted both. Another series, 4 Girls Away at Camp. It was in truth a boarding school, but I could scarcely imagine such a thing. That's what I mouthed to myself then, scarcely. I tried these words on in my head, alone in my room, the bedside lamp on, folded under the covers, escaping into the pages of a book. And isn't that what all writers want? Falling into a book, each one a kind of Narnia, and feeling that exquisite edge of aloneness, honed almost to happiness. Nearly everything that happened in my life when I was 12 took place at home, or at some close distance from home. My mother would say to me, "Will you get the matching blouse from my drawer? It's popty colored, parrot green." In my head, this was the same color as Kelly green, But I never found out. I never knew for sure. There were certain colors that bloomed normal on the palette of Indian saris, hanging in rows in the guest bedroom / youngest daughter's closet. The way I'd seen in all of my friends' houses too. The saris couldn't fit into the parents' closets. Saris and American clothes would not coexist in the same shallow closet of these first homes. How these series come back to haunt me now, with their sense of ownership over the world, with the ways in which they defined a world. Kelly Green, with all the ways in which they owned words, Strawberry Blonde. We read these books, but there was no one like us in any of them. Did we think of writing our own? I want to see us, to see the girl I was, the girls we were, back when we lived at home. Something like Nancy Drew, The Secret of the Old Clock, The Clue of the Leaning Chimney, The Mystery of the Girl Who Lives at Home. Sejal Shah lived alone with her parents on Pelham Road in Western New York State, in a city that had seen better days, young lion of the West, that had housed stops on the Underground Railroad. She became a late only child, her older brother having jumped ship for college, Brown University, where many of the students were of color, mixed race, radical, or in some other way, third world, yet wanting to begin their training to be doctors, investment bankers, nonprofit organizers, painters, members of the educated elite. Sejal, when not solving mysteries, the case of the unfinished homework, or staying away from those less fortunate and more maligned than herself. Resource room kids, kids born in India who now face the horrors of gym class and enforced classroom pairing. Spent her days in the company of the spree-wearing white kids, Jessica, Tara, Amity, Kathleen, trying to avoid the ball in volleyball, running fast in track. They were incredulous over the obvious. 3 others in town shared her first name. 2 shared both her names. It was necessary to use middle initials so as not to confuse the library system and the eye doctor's office. Sejal A, Sejal B, Sejal N Shah. There was no C. On the weekend, Sejal A was joined by her trio of friends. They were all girls with glasses, Sonal, Minnie, and Rupali. As you might expect, there were also 2 boys, Nitin and Manish, Nikki and Max. Even their parents called them by these names, the nicknames an improvement for their junior high lives. Their secret Indian lives. This is what bound them, the secret 6, together. During the week, they tried to look like everybody else. On the weekends, they stopped trying. On the weekends, they headed to each other's houses. All of them parodied their parents' accents. Then they repeated the joke about how their parents ordered a cheeseburger without the burger at McDonald's and asked to talk to the manager, Ronald McDonald, when they were not understood. Then they taught each other how to use curling irons to fix their bangs without making awkward cowlick angles. In each other's kitchens, they ate hot mix, Rice Krispies, potato sticks, peanuts, lemon juice, and mirchu, and practiced moonwalking, kept secret track of who got her period first, watched their mothers making cha and finding the crushed red pepper to sprinkle on pizza, and their fathers debating something or playing carom. In each other's bedrooms and bathrooms, the girls experimented with hair removal systems, that noxious cream, Nair, which only sometimes worked, and hydrogen peroxide. Sure, some Indians have blonde hair, Sejal tried to tell her brother. In each other's bedrooms, Sejal and Minnie gingerly tried out Sally Hansen natural cold wax kit for face / leg / body / bikini. Sonal and Sejal tried hot wax with cloth strips and gave themselves minor burns across their legs. Their sensible mothers had warned them, about how using a razor would only mean the hair would grow back thicker. Finally, the girls gave up and found the plastic bag of Bic disposable razors one of their fathers used. Then it was time to find Band-Aids and introduce the real topic of conversation: tampons. Just how exactly did that work? I'm going to skip now in this essay. I wanted them all: pulp paperbacks, spines broken, or hardbacks and plastic jackets, the slip of paper on the inside page with all the library stamps, date after date after date. The covers of the older series were painted the brown and red of the late 70s, muted colors. It's how I think of those muted colors: olive, that weathered Margaret Thatcher blue-gray, lilac heather on the hardbacks of Anne of Green Gables. It is how I think of those summer evenings, those Sunday afternoons. The Gujarati girls go to Hindu Heritage Summer Camp. The Gujarati girls go skiing. The mystery of the prasad plate, a Gujarati girl's mystery. The Gujarati girls go to Panorama Plaza to see the latest Molly Ringwald movie, Gujarati Girls Mystery Number 13. The Gujarati girls get malaria, also titled The Gujarati Girls Go to India. My friends now laugh. It seems almost like a novel, at the stories about how I grew up, how we grew up. We took cup baths, never used the dishwasher except as a drying rack, saved tinfoil, almost never ate out. Is that world gone? We were more Indian once, I know this. We were something else once. I feel this as a nearly physical ache, this knowledge, because it means I am something else now. I'm going to read the third and final essay I'm going to read from is about postcards and friendships, and it's called Temporary Talismans. And what do I want to say? It's about my love of postcards, and two of the writers I've written postcards with for a long time: Michael Martone, his most recent book, The Complete Writings of Art Smith, The Bird Boy of Fort Wayne, edited by Michael Martone, out from Boa Editions this year, and Familiars, Holly Wren Spalding. It's a beautiful book of poems from Alice Green and Company. And I'm going to show you a little bit of my postcard stash. This, oof. Oh, that, I don't know if you can see that the right way. This is the postcard that the essay I'm reading from is based on. Temporary talismans. There's a postcard I've kept propped on my desk, on a bookshelf, or protected in a drawer since middle school. I don't know what attracted me to that particular postcard from Germany. Perhaps it was that I had not yet traveled out of the country, other than to go to Canada. But it always felt more mysterious to me than that. The image even surfaced in a story I wrote several years ago called The Girl with Two Brothers. The postcard shows a pair of children embarking on a journey. They resemble my idea of Hansel and Gretel, though on a happier trek. I think I most likely found that card at one of those pop-up fairs of antiques, collectibles, and memorabilia that suburban malls used to host in their large corridors and courtyards. I loved looking at old bottles, books, and ephemera. And I bought this one card. It had been sent already. It was used, and it was perfect. According to Christian McEwen in her thoughtful and timely book, World Enough in Time, on creativity and slowing down, we've lost something by losing our paper correspondence, letters and postcards. McEwen writes, because of their brevity and the play between words and image, postcards are perhaps especially potent. McEwen meditates on the corporeality of the postcard as an art object, as a temporary talisman. And this is from her book, which is right here. World Enough in Time. These are her words. And the pleasure of a postcard in and of itself, a tiny icon, which can be propped on a mantelpiece or a bedside table, attached with magnets to the fridge, slipped into the edge of a mirror, or pasted on the front of a journal, is a loss that no one even seems to mourn. And yet a postcard, just because it is so cheap, so light, so portable, can be astonishingly resilient and evocative. Who has not opened a book to find a battered postcard thrust between the pages? Who has not puzzled over a date, a smudgy postmark, and reread the message from so long ago, studying the ease or awkwardness of phrasing, the swirl of a signature? And these are my words now. I have 3 friendships that grew out of postcard correspondences. I met Wendy and Holly at an artist residency 14 and 6 years ago, respectively, and Michael at a conference 15 years ago. We were all already writers, but the 4 of us individually also had a practice of writing postcards to friends, and we all still do. I have never lived in the same area as these friends, and 3 of us have moved in the ensuing years. Between us, we relocated in that time from or to Michigan, Maine, New York, Massachusetts, Iowa, and Washington State. When a letter or postcard arrives in the mail, I would and do recognize each of their handwriting without a signature. It gives me such pleasure to know their handwriting. In general, I don't know the handwriting of my newer friends. Michael mentions peonies from when he lived in Syracuse. Holly writes of books and walks in her balletic, elegant script. Wendy's letters fill the page billowing clouds, a kind of kinetic energy. I see a sail filled, telling me of the relief she feels that the school year is over. What does it mean to take the time to write a postcard and procure a stamp when I can message any one of them on Facebook or text or email? It's not that I do not email or message or text them sometimes. I have, and I do, but we still write postcards. Postcards lend themselves in a quiet way to cultivating a new friendship or courting a new friend, which is perhaps why we began that way. But why do we continue? It's a quality of mind I'm after or trying to describe. A postcard arises from a quiet place before picking up the pen. I think it's about attention and intention. Though there can also be something breezy, even rushed offhand about a postcard, at least in the time before email. Now, a postcard reads more deliberately than an email. Postcards are incomplete, imperfect, and often say something about one's travel or daily life. They free us from the sense of having to write something extraordinary or profound. They are a first and only draft. For me, as a writer, that's such a relief. It's a snapshot of a life. I often edit emails, but in postcards, it's okay to be free-ranging, to not get everything or even anything special in. All is forgiven and the stakes are low. The gesture itself takes some effort and care. It's an unexpected bit of happiness in the mail. Sometimes a flash of watercolor or a small quote, writing what we were doing and thinking, a picture for no reason. An email wants something from you, an answer, some information, a reply. A postcard asks for nothing. It is a gift. I became friends with Wendy, Michael, and Holly, in part through years of writing. Certainly we had a connection when we met, and conversations that sparked and felt meaningful. And yet there was something about the years of trading small messages, the effort taken in going to the post office, picking a card, and retrieving the address. The old-fashioned practice of having a pen pal, maintaining a correspondence, tending to a conversation that became, over the years, friendship. There's a postcard I've kept for so many years. It's not currently in rotation on my desk, but I safeguard it in a box with a few other talismans, art objects, muse collars. There's a phrase in German on the picture side of the card, hinaus in die Ferne. According to Google Translate, it means out into the distance. In all those years, I had never bothered to look it up. I didn't need to. The image had its own potency and it gave me words. It spoke to me as if from a dream, and I trusted it fully. To step onto the path with a sense of wonder, whether setting off to write something or on an actual journey, a pilgrimage. The card said nothing extraordinary, or perhaps what it said was essential, only words, a message, which would now come by email or text or WhatsApp. No punctuation, a sort of poem. We arrived, / here today. Everything is great. Valmy and Esther. This week, while out of town, I went to IKEA. After I gave up sticking to my list, I left the Swedish behemoth with, among other things, a pack of postcards. The illustrations are of single birds, though no blue jays, and therefore have nothing to do with Toronto, where I bought them. Still, I fancied the pale green background and the image of a solitary bird perched on each card. I will send them to Michael, Wendy, and Holly when I get home.